Wow. The Glazers hinting through report from Mark Ogden on ESPN that the Glazers may want to stick around, and instead of selling the club to what looks like Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani in terms of the Qatari bid, or Jim Ratcliffe, it looks like those are the two main guys now. What it is, it looks like instead two of the Glazers might stick around and instead go for a minority investment. This, I don't know if I've been watching too much Succession, but this feels like there's been this bizarre little change of heart right at the sort of, it's probably the wrong phrase, bottleneck of the negotiations for the bidders. Or it's something that feels incredibly, and you can guess where I'm going with this, feels incredibly strategic. Incredibly strategic. Either way, Man United fans will be absolutely, well, concerned at a minimum. But I think if you dive a little deeper, and there's an absolute cracking video from Sam from United People's TV, he puts forward an idea that maybe you don't need to worry too much. But there are different angles on here, and that one in particular, the idea, and again, how naive am I being to suggest that this is a true, honest sort of change of heart? It feels like, though, it was something there's a bit of a paper trail, right? So in terms of the article, it's from ESPN FC, Mark Ogden, the senior writer for ESPN FC, and he's saying that Joel and Avram Glazer, two of the Glazer family, are increasingly confident in securing outside investment that will allow them to remain at Manchester United as owners and potentially double the value of the club over the next decade. So, in terms of that paper trail, what I find interesting is November, it's a quote that's come out from them, is that all strategic alternatives, including new investment into the club, a sale or other transactions. Now that kind of sort of safeguards you as to whatever you want to do. But the important thing here is that Man United, to move forward, need to generate funds. They have to. They need to sort the training ground out. They need to transform the team to a point, of course. Always, you're going to need money for that. And the stadium as well is looking pretty warm. So in terms of bringing money for that, there's two routes when it comes to this. Is obviously, one, you go, look, we haven't put a penny into this club. Let's just sell up now, take our 5 billion/6 billion, which we'll get onto that in a second, and move on, to something else. That looked like it was the progression of this. It looked like you had your clear, bidders in terms of, the Sheikh and Jim Ratcliffe, and that's the direction that it was moving on. What we weren't surprised with was this sort of somewhat, is it good business acumen? Is it, ruthlessness? Is it greed? It's probably a bit of all, isn't it? In terms of wanting that 6 billion. From what I've read, 4 billion, 4.5, I think, is a more reasonable valuation of Man United. So to try and go and get 6, the idea behind that is that obviously in time, revenue streams will probably continue to increase. More money can be sort of brought into the club. And in time, that ability to double the value of the club over the next decade is there. It is there. But you've got to invest to allow that to happen. Investing in players, and in particular, investing in training ground and stadium. And those two are going to cost billions of pounds. So this idea that a minority investment would work, this is something that Sam talks about in his video, it's somewhat misleading, because there's this idea that, it's just going to come in, you're going to give us a bit of money, you're going to buy out a couple of the guys here of the Glazers, and we'll sort of tick along and the club will be valued double. Maybe there'd be a willingness then for the Glazers to invest their money alongside this new investment. But that's not something that we've seen previously. They've just allowed time to, go by, and the club has gone up and up and up. But you're kind of at a point now where it feels like you needed to move forward. And I also thought maybe, let's be honest, the idea of this Super League that they were part of, that was that huge revenue stream that was going to allow for that, and allow for them to then, again, maybe sort something out with that investment that's needed without, again, putting their hand into their pocket, which, as we know, they've not done throughout. But to make this call now, and that there was always a sort of a gentle hint, it just all feels incredibly strategic when we're getting very close to the deadline for the final set of bids on April 28th, which is my birthday, if you are wondering. Again, it's not time, is it? Because this is serious stuff. Obviously, Man United supporters have, not wanted them for a very, very long time. And a source familiar with the situation, I'm not sure what that means, told ESPN that brothers Joel and Avram favour new investment that will enable them to remain in charge at Old Trafford whilst the rest of them go. But to buy out those guys, the rest of them go, they offload their stakes in the club. They'll want money for that, right? They're going to want loads of money for that. Loads of money for that. And then you've got extra money needed for everything else. Just feels like a power play, doesn't it? When you think about it that way. Because the bottom line for all of this is how much money can you make and how much money can you get away from. Maybe with the amount of wealth that Sheikh Jassim and Ratcliffe have, maybe it's one where you're trying to really, it feels like it's this. I know I'm sort of leading the witness here a little bit. It does just feel like they're pushing towards that. Because the sort of flirting and the posturing between every different element of it, and it's just allowed it to sort of rush through and chug along. And the interesting thing here is, again, when it comes to that third round of bidding, which is, a bit extortionate at that point, when you're trying to get to that 6 mark. What's dangerous here is that at some point, it could be a point where these guys go, hang on a minute, you're taking a piss here. I'm off. Because, look, I wouldn't even understand how they would understand the value of money between 6 and 5 billion. But let's just remember how many hundreds of million that is. And if you do understand that, just keep going, well, no, we'll go 6, just go up another one. That is just stupid, right? So there will be a moment where they will go, well, okay, we'll walk away. Problem is, Man United, of all the clubs, is a club that, has so much opportunity in terms of growth. Broadcast revenue, streaming opportunities, possible restructuring of the club. And there's a view within the United hierarchy that the club can become much more valuable with the required investment on and off the pitch, which we've spoken about, right? And a source told ESPN that Joel and Avram Glazer believe that the potential for organic growth over the years could make United worth at least 10 billion. Doesn't it feel planted a bit? I might be totally wrong. I might be miles off and they might be sticking around. But they know they're the bad guys. They're not lost in that. And so kind of making it a bit precarious and going, well, actually, this is... do you know what? I might just keep hold of it because it's incredibly valuable to me. And it's going to be really valuable in the future. Oh, no, take 6. Maybe that's the... Well, of course, that's what's being played out here. I might be miles off here. Feels like a power move. Do you disagree? Do you think they'd stick around? Look, I know they want to make money. But the problem you'll have as a Man United fan moving forward when we get back to the football of it all is until that's figured out, I don't think these guys are going to want to invest any more money in the club. Now, they might sell players and that might give them a little bit of money to do it. But in terms of the investment that you probably want to see as a Man United fan and were excited to see because it looked like the deal was going to get done by the end of the season, this obviously puts that into a sort of very dangerous position. So, of course, Man United, a huge club, will become even more huge. But that's not news to these guys. They knew that from the start. So now to kind of make these ideas and moves and let this sort of come out into the press, smells a bit. I might be way off. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Go check out Sam People's Go check out United People's TV and his video. It's It's very interesting, and he breaks it down. I'm off. Probably for a nap, because I can't seem to speak.